And something that hit me, that I read in one of your articles, and it was your quote. Stating, "Be comfortable being uncomfortable." And just to give a little background for me, I worked for an insurance company for
Okay.
almost 18 years, and
Wow.
in between that time, like I've always had, the feel of wanting to get into the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And I started out, doing some movie work, did a lot of background work. and
Okay.
and then at the same time too, I got distracted, from that, and I kind of, just continued to lean on the 9 to 5 world, as
Sure.
far as, like almost kind of being like that one all be all. But like my gut, it never felt right to me, as far as
Hmm.
like, like, you always got something bigger, for you. Like, you just got to go
Hmm.
out and do it. So, that was something that I've been manifesting a lot. And as of recent, my job, approached me as far as a separation.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what, with the time that I put in,
Maybe this is it.
yeah, like, this might be, what I've been looking for. And higher power has blessed me, as far as like being able to purchase the tools, to be able to do this. So
Hmm.
I look at it like this, like, this is something that, it has to be done, because if it wasn't, and if my mind wasn't, attracted to it, then why am I doing it?
Hmm.
So, but I said, you know what? I can't take away this. I can't let this opportunity go. So,
Yeah.
I said, I'm a focus, more full time on my platform, and utilize this as far as developing my resume. It might not be, the same, you know pathway that someone else had
Somebody else.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might not be the pathway that you've done it, but we're in a time of being different, and
Yeah.
living different.
Hey, more power to you, bro. Because I mean, the more people you talk to in this industry, you'll find out that everyone's path was different, and people came from all different walks of life. I think a great example is Oprah. I
Yes.
mean, we know what she is now, but she was just a local TV reporter getting told no. People discriminating against her based on how she looks, her race, her ethnicity, the whole bit,
Right.
and then parlayed that into the empire she has now. So, hey, bro, more power to you, man. If this is something you passionate about, man, go with your gut, man,
A-
and the get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think just the whole idea is the fact that getting out of your comfort zone is going to make you kind of adapt and be more than maybe what you expect in those certain situations.
Right. And often, people tell me, they be like, "Oh man, like, you got it, like, you a slam dunk." And I'm like, "Listen, you may believe that, but at the same time, like, I gotta,
I'm a work in
yeah,
progress.
I'm a
Yeah,
work in
yeah,
progress."
right.
They be like, "Oh man, you've done stuff in the past," but I'm like, it's different, because now I don't have, somebody on my back. And
Right, or
for
something to fall back on, or whatever. Yeah,
Exactly. And what I want to accomplish, like, I gotta make sure that I'm crossing my T's, I'm dotting my I's, and everything, is
right,
being done accordingly.
right.
And also too, budgeting, like, budgeting is key. So it's like,
Mhm.
I gotta be mindful of everything that I do, going forward. So
200%.
exactly. And that was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to connect with you, because like, individuals like yourself, as well as, like, Tyrone Johnson, that's, which is my family, you
Hmm.
know like, y'all kind of like, you know a role model to me right now. And
Thanks, bro.
and like, when I see y'all on television, like, it motivates me, you know and I'm very inspired, to see the work that you do.
Yeah,
And
man. I mean, take that for a grain of salt for yourself too, because you never know who's watching, right? You never
right.
know who is picking up on like little things that you might be putting down, or who's paying attention to the things you think the other people aren't paying attention to. So, like, same for you, bro. Like, you never know who's watching you. Like, man, I remember Hakeem, man. He wasn't with us after 18 years. I wonder what he's up to now. Then they see that you done, pursued another passion of yours. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
it's a great example.
Definitely. So, just, kind of jumping into things. What inspired you to become an anchor?
What inspired me to become one? I think it was just originally it started. I don't know if you remember this dude on Channel 6 ABC Action News, Don Pollock. And
Yes.
okay, you remember Don Pollock?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to always like these weird, like little quirky stuff. And like
Yeah.
back when I was younger, the news was just a part of like the daily routine, especially Channel 6. That was like everybody watched it, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So and he will always have these little weird, quirky bits, and they used to make me laugh. And I always remember coming back from uh his stories. The lead anchor, I forget his name, who the long time
Jim Gardner.
Jim Gardner. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jim Gardner always be shaking his head like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just something Crazy Don did again. So that just piqued my interest. Like, man, I want to do that weird stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that piqued my interest. I always was into sports, but like I never connected the two. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And then Yuki Washington, I got to meet him when I was in 10th grade because I still kind of, like I said, I had the bug. My 10th grade class went on a tour of KYW. I told my teacher, like, it was 9th or 10th grade. I told my teacher I was interested in like doing the news and stuff like that. So I
Right.
kind of knew like that was something I was interested in. And then I met Yuki Washington, and then back then Yuki was doing sports, and but shook his hand, got to see behind the scenes him do his thing and everything else. So that just like all the more gave me even more fervor.
Yeah.
And as college went on, opportunities came, and basically, I used to do news for WRTI, Temple's radio station. I went to Temple, and I used to do cover stories like Jesse Jackson and John Street and Chamber of Commerce meetings, and this person speaking here and stuff
Right.
like that. And then I came in one day to do an assignment, and they didn't have anything for me, so I'm just hanging around, just shooting the shit. Excuse my language, but
Oh no, you good. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, just shooting the shit.
This free form. You all good. I was gonna tell you, have your favorite beverage of choice, whatever you want on deck. You good.
I just got some tea, bro. I just got a little tea. That's all.
Got you.
But yeah, so I'm just hanging around. I didn't have an assignment, and then someone didn't show up to in the sports department to cover the Sixers game, and they're like, "Hey, Danny, would you want to cover the game tonight?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, it's around the Iverson time. Like, of course, I watched
nice.
the team.
And,
yeah, I played. I played basketball in high school. Like, I love sports. I never, like I said, connected the two. I always wanted to be like a news anchor.
Right.
Like in my head, that was like the picture I had in my head was me being a news anchor because I wanted to be like the guy calling the shots or whatever. Anyway,
Right.
So I went to the game, and Iverson dropped like 40, and then there was a huge scrum at his locker, and then I got back to the station, was able to write about it, and I could be like creative with my writing and say stuff like, Iverson had more moves than a U-Haul truck, or you know what I'm saying, like, oh man, like the Bulls defense was holier than 1,000 Bibles. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I could like make little jokes and innuendos and stuff like that, and it wasn't like with the news stuff. It was like fires, crime.
It was more emotional, like more emotional attached versus
yeah. It was just so like heavy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Where this was just like lighthearted, like. So I kind of combined the Don Pollock, like the jokey joke,
Right.
with the seriousness, I guess, of like being a journalist, I guess, because I am a sports journalist in the end. And it just took off from there, man. Like and then I was like onto the sports realm, and I did play-by-play for the Temple women's basketball team when Dawn Staley was there, and a little before her too, and then internships, and then my first TV job, and off she went.
Nice. Now, prior to you actually, having the bug bitten, for diving into the anchor world. Now, did you have aspirations of playing basketball, like
Of hooping?
making it to the lead, or
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that?
I think every kid did. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But by the time it all shook out for me in my senior year, I was getting contacted by Alvernia State University as opposed to Kentucky or Temple or
Right.
whoever else. You know what I'm saying? So I was
Right.
like, man, like I'm not playing Division III, and it's obviously, it's different. Like, you look back on it now, like basketball, people make like careers out of like playing overseas and coaching and like different spinoffs of like scouting and like different spinoffs of like basketball. I think back then that wasn't quite as clear for me.
Right.
Maybe I would have stuck with playing hoops and just being around the game more, but I wanted to go to Temple because they had a great communications program. I only applied to 2 schools, Temple and Lincoln, and I
Mm-hmm.
got into Temple,
Oh,
and Lincoln gave me a scholarship, but for academics, but I ended up going to Temple nonetheless. So it turned out to be an excellent decision. So.
awesome, awesome, great choice, and it kept you home, homebound, like
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah,
and the in-state tuition, bro.
right,
Lincoln was in-state as well, but I mean, just the idea of like, friends who went to Howard or Hampton or stuff like that, like the amount of like student loan debt they graduated with, as
right.
opposed to what I graduated with. So, I'm definitely thankful for making that choice.
Awesome, awesome. Now I know you mentioned the likes of Don Pollock and Yuki Washington.
Yeah,
Who else were some of your biggest influencers? Going into the world of broadcasting.
that's a good question. Gary Papa was big.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah, R.I.P. Man. I interned with Gary Papa. Um, and that was my first sports department internship. It was Gary Papa, Scott Palmer, who's with the Phillies now,
Yeah.
Jack Brayboy. I don't even know if you remember him, and
Nah.
Phil Andrews was the weekend anchor
Yeah.
at Channel 6, and Gary Papa was influential. Just really, he was a character, man.
Yeah.
But I really got a glimpse of like how lucrative the industry could be, because
Right.
he was like making a lot of money, man. Like, I mean, I'm not sure how old you are, but like he had been in that main anchor chair as a sports guy from like my whole lifetime
Right.
by the time I had gotten there. So at least like 15 years or so as being, the main sports guy in like a top five market. So I saw like dude drove like a different car every day,
Mm.
like the money he was like super paid, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that gave me like wow, like okay, like this might be a little more than I expected. But I also interned with Jenna Wolf and Mike Missinelli when I was at Channel 17.
Okay. I
So
remember that. Remember those
yeah,
days.
yeah, it's
Like.
funny, man, because Mike ain't changed a bit, bro. He
Mm-mm.
he is the same guy from the persona I had of him before I interned with him, and the persona since has just like been congruent like all the way through. So
Right.
I guess something can be said about somebody being that consistent, like they are who you thought they were, type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So
Definitely.
um,
Eh,
so yeah, so but Mike definitely had an impact on me because I wanted that as a kid. I kind of still want that now, to be able to have like that double dip of like having a radio voice and doing TV, which he had at that time because he would do WIP
Right.
during the day and then come to Channel 17 and do the 11 o'clock news. They had like a Sunday sports show and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that is great, man. And Mike's a very good guy. I had the opportunity to be able to speak with him,
Always been good to
plenty
me,
of
man.
times.
So
Yeah, like he's cool. Even though he called me a hoop on the radio one day, he was like,
what?
a hoop, like
A hoot?
yeah.
Okay.
I was like, really, Mike? But no, I bust his chops on that. I was like, it's all love though. I appreciate it though. But it's funny, going back, to the Channel 6 days, like you know. When I think of Channel 6 growing up as a kid, like it was always, Gary Papa, Scott Palmer, and
Yeah.
like you said, Phil Andrews, and from the news front, like to me, like you hear six, like I'm always thinking about Jim Gardner, Lisa Thomas Laurie,
Right.
Mark Howard,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Mark Howard. Yeah, because his son was the actor on that vampire show.
really,
Yeah, I forget what it was called, but yeah, his son was. He might still be acting now. I'm not sure, but I forget his name. But yeah, but Mark Howard's weather. Yeah, I always thought he was super accurate, man. He always got it right. I thought.
hmm yeah, like he was cool, like him, and dang, it was somebody else too, but it's all good. We could talk about that off camera. But
Yeah.
what were some of the biggest challenges you've experienced, going into the field of broadcasting?
I think the first thing that pops out is the money. You make such little money at first. At my first job, I made $17,500,
Mm,
and that was my first job out of school in Salisbury, Maryland, Market 151.
right,
So it's funny, like man, you know, they bring you on for such little money. I think it's just like a lot of industries are like that, where you make such little money at first and you have to work your way up to earning bigger money.
right,
And I think, looking back on it, not realizing it, being so naive, that it's really is a hindrance to people of I don't know your background, but people of like my socioeconomic background, a hindrance of people from like poorer or working class black and brown communities to even get into this industry because you make such little money at first. It's like, man,
Right.
I'm going to school for a 4 year degree and then I'm going into this industry where I'm not making any money or guaranteed to make any money. And I got bills to pay. I got student loans to pay
Yeah.
back. I got, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you need like a support system in order to do it, which a lot of people from working class backgrounds, black and brown people don't have, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm thankful to be able to have made it this far and looking back, thankful for my parents were able to, help me through and be that support system because I was making such little money at first. And I was in salt. So I think that money would be one of the biggest hindrances. I remember, you know, you know how it is. You making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches
Yeah.
3 times a week. You know
Absolutely.
what
Look,
I'm saying?
it get like that. Like, look,
Yeah. So,
especially in this time, this day and time, like everything is costly. It's like as soon as you step out the door, like it's a bill. Like you're almost like a,
yeah.
a bill as soon as you step
It's
out the
like it's
door.
like you got to have a car because you got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to get around and
Yeah.
don't have to depend on people and whatnot. So that was definitely something like, especially being right out of school. Like I got my first job in August after I graduated. That was something that was like,
Right.
man, like my head was spinning a little bit. I think, you know, it was tough, like in those smaller markets, not knowing how the industry worked either. Because I didn't have like role model. Like I said, Yuki Washington was an example, but he was already in market four.
Yeah. Like
I didn't know exactly how to pursue jobs that were in my industry. I kind of, you kind of piece it together and you feel people out and you ask questions and things like that. But there wasn't like a roadmap of like,
right.
well, after you're here for your first contract, make sure you look for something new. And then after that, what I'm saying? So
Right.
just, it,
And
it, it,
and
it
yeah,
just wasn't
and,
clear.
and yeah, and that's totally accurate because even when I decided to jump into like doing movies or like if it was like TV commercials, whatever, like there was no instruction manual to be able to do it. Like it was
But
one of
you need,
those. It was one of those where I was thankful that YouTube was relatively
yeah,
established
right.
because
Yeah.
somebody kind of gave you an idea of what to do as far as like the guidelines, like all right, you want to get involved in movies, go to a casting agency, they offer classes and stuff like that, and that
But
was
you don't know which casting agency to go to,
right.
or how long, how much percentage you should give them, or like
Right.
all these little details and things like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of I hear definitely what you're saying because in a lot of instances it's like you're just like on a whim, just guessing, like trying to piece it together.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that definitely, and particularly from being a black man, just not seeing my people who look like me on TV very
Mm-hmm.
often, it was difficult
Mm-hmm.
knowing exactly where to step and how long to stay there and what to say and things like that. So you need a mentor, man. And I
Yes.
think that I definitely try to offer myself up to all the younger people that I meet who have questions or aren't sure or might lean on me for my perspective.
Right. Yeah, it definitely having a mentor, on all levels is a plus. Like I have a friend of mine. We actually, had worked together. Like you actually may be familiar with him as OJ Spivey on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like like he's a mentor to me as well because he does a lot of media consulting work, and
Okay.
I tend to pick his brain from time to time, and like,
Gotta have
hey,
somebody, man.
yeah, like listen, I'm thinking about going this route, like what I need to do, and like he'll tell me what steps I need to take, and just got to execute, and for what I'm learning is executing is key. Like you could talk about everything
Yeah.
that you want to do,
Yeah.
but if you're not actually executing the words that that's coming out of you, like that's how you can almost kind of make yourself sick, and it drains you mentally because you're not doing what your thoughts are really attracting to do.
Right.
So but what one other question, like what keeps you grounded, what keeps you motivated to stay in this
Oh, my
industry?
kids, man. My kids, they stay roasting me, bro.
Right.
They fry me up all the time.
Yeah.
I think because I don't know, man. You know, it's we got a coworker, one of my previous coworkers, Marshall Harris.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you remember Marshall, but
Yeah.
it would be like, he would host Phillies pre and post game, right? And I would fill in from time to time. I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife, like I do a little bit of everything
Right.
for all the shows. But to my kids, when I was up there, it was just like, oh, daddy's on TV. But when Marshall would be on there, it'd be like, oh, look, there's Marshall. I'm like, hold up, like, I'm on TV every day too. Like I do a lot of different stuff. So I don't know what it is, man, but to them,
Right.
like it's just not the same. Like so that key, like I'm not when I walk through the door, I'm dad. I'm not like
Right.
TV Danny. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they just treat me obviously like a regular person. So
Look.
and that goes the same throughout my family. But um, I think that keeps me grounded. And just being, hey, bro, I'm from North Philly. I've experienced life from a perspective of knowing what it's like to have less, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now that I'm having, more success with, my experiences and interactions and things that come my way, then I'm grateful for them, you know what I'm saying? So I just try to, not saying where I came from give me that, because I'm sure plenty of people have come from where I come from and not been grateful for things they've gotten.
Right.
But I think that, you know, life comes at you in a certain way. People handle it differently, but I think that makes me stay reminded that I'm fallible. I make mistakes. I'm the same as everybody else.
Yeah, and also like you created your legacy, like and you're continuing to create your legacy, and the position that you have, like it gives you that opportunity to to come across the likes of so many different athletes, and
True, man.
and who knows, like you said, while you were in Temple and you were working on stories with Jesse Jackson, and having an opportunity to meet these these individuals, like that's awesome, man. Like
It is surreal, man. It
like
is surreal sometimes. And but then there's also that part of you is like you got a job to do. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So, and also sometimes not embarrassment, or maybe it's like a mixture. It's like shame, like being able to come back and not having done the job well. It kind of like drives you to like, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
when the question might be difficult or you feel a little nervous, it's like, man, I gotta ask, because like when I go back and listen back to the questions and try to put the story together, it seems like why didn't you say such and such? You know what I'm saying?
oh
Because
yeah.
it's, you know what I mean.
I'm
So,
gonna do that
so
after this, by the way.
no,
I'm like,
I
oh man, I
mean,
should have asked that.
sometimes you're your own worst critic, and I think that
Right,
definitely is. People ask like about like little tricks and tidbits and information. I think that is something, like, to me, a lot of the work that I do sometimes will never be good enough, no matter how good I do. But I'm definitely satisfied a lot of times. A lot of times I'm definitely like, grateful and thankful and and happy with what I've done. But I think there's always, that little iota of improvement that you can make on anything you do, So
right. I totally get it. I think that's something that just life itself. It's almost like you almost gotta kind of gotta like, take yourself away, take yourself out of the shoes, and just basically observing yourself. Like, all right,
mhm.
like your pros and your cons, and where you need to
Nobody
work.
knows you better than you, man. So
Exactly, but it's funny because then like some people, like they'll see you be like, hey man, how you doing this? Hey, you should do this, you should do that. Like, look, you're not in my shoes. Let me be. Like, look, let me be. I got this, but I appreciate it though. So, but what are some things you like to do? Just to disconnect from your career.
I appreciate my family a lot. I spend a lot of time with my family. Traveling with my wife is really fun.
Awesome.
Um, she means a lot to me, and I think everyone has their own routines. I guess I'm like routine oriented a lot of ways, like trying to make sure that I get to the gym and work out and staying in shape, eating right. So I like try to keep like those positive things going around me, so
Right.
that when it comes to work, it's just like a steady follow through of those things. But happiness is an inside job, man. I definitely have learned that. So as far as like happiness and like being stress free and calm and like all those things, like that's like something you have to work on internally, man. It's
Right.
nothing. that's going to give you that satisfaction and that, that peace, other than, you being at peace inside. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
breathing exercises, all that stuff to like manage stress, I think is important. And you know, continuing to learn, man. It's sometimes, old dog doesn't want to learn new tricks, man. But like just trying to stay young and being around young people and
Right.
staying up to date with technology and things like that is just like you gotta be continue to stay relevant, even how uncomfortable it might be. Being open to new things is important.
Absolutely. You kind of just followed up into what I was going to ask you next. Just being in the year 2020, and
Hmm.
you've seen a lot take place. Especially with the evolving of technology.
Yeah, man.
Like how has social media impacted the business, like the broadcasting business?
Good and bad. Good and bad. Definitely has watered it down because there's so many people trying to do the same thing you are, but maybe have less experience.
Right.
So, and I think it's nothing wrong with people wanting to do what you do, but you have to know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't act like you got all the chops and expertise when you clearly don't, or be willing to make mistakes and get like that. That's what everyone who's on TV now or doing broadcasting or whatever on a professional level, they've all made mistakes at some point and learn from them to become what they are now. So that's what, me going to Salisbury, Maryland is about, is me going to that smaller market and being able to make mistakes and get better and improve and learn from things that happen. And
Right.
then I can carry that expertise with me as I go. So I think that's definitely changed things. It's definitely made things better that information disseminates so quickly, and you can just be in touch with people who you might not have been able to be in touch with, like me and DJ Jazzy Jeff follow each other on Instagram. Like I
Right.
never in my life would I have thought that I would be exchanging little comments or notes with Jazzy Jeff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but suddenly it's like all shrunk so that you can connect with people like that. So I think it's pros and cons. I'm glad I'm not starting in this age because I feel like graduates now is a double-edged sword where they graduate with so much expectations of being able to write, edit, shoot,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
It's
Do graphics, like the expectations of what you'll be able to like the multimedia journalism that you're able to do, as opposed to when I graduated, where it was more like a narrower focus.
yeah.
But
Cause it's like nowadays you almost have your hands on anything you want to do. Like I almost say probably like 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have my hands on like the tools that I have now, or if even
no, I mean
like
you're
it,
right
it,
now. You got the camera, the
yeah,
audio, the interview subject. Like it's all you haven't left your house. You've
right,
done the whole thing right
yeah,
there. So it kind of makes it. It depends on how people treat it. You know what I mean? So
right,
if they
absolutely, and that's like what I I tell like some of my friends, they be like, hey, look, like we should do a show, like what I mean, like I don't have nothing wrong with doing a show, but it's like, hey, look, like you
let's
gotta
do it right.
you gotta do it right, and you gotta be willing to do it. And I know they're gonna see this and be like, hey man, why you talk about me? But I'm like, listen, but like it's it's real deal. Like if you really want to do it, like you gotta be invested. Like we gotta sit down, come together, talk about like the dialogue that's gonna be spoken to the world. Like we just can't just get on and say,
Gotta respect it,
yeah,
man. A guy I
exactly.
used to work with, Ron Burke, man.
Yes, I was going
When
to
they can't.
mention him from NBC back in the day.
Nah, yeah, it's my
Yeah.
guy, man. Talk about mentors. He used to say something, respect the chair,
Yes.
as far as like if you're up there and you're going to be performing and doing this, like you got to bring it every time. You know what I mean? You got to treat, because it can be taken away from you so easily.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen people come and go. We've seen people leave unceremoniously or under circumstances that they wish were different. But while you're in it and have this opportunity, you got to respect it. You know what I'm saying? And that
Definitely.
goes like you said with your friends and the stuff that you do, that you broadcast in the world. What you say and do, the pride you put into it, and expertise that you bring is what people are going to see. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, absolutely. Kind of circling back, to the challenges, because I did read up on you, and you had a stint out in California. Like
yeah.
how did you, deal with that emotionally? Being, from one coast and having to travel,
Yes,
to a totally different coast to work.
it's a great question, man, because it's weird. When I first graduated, I sent out 60 tapes. So
Mm,
I started in January, and I'm saying tapes because back then you actually had to mail them. It wasn't like I was sending people my demo
right,
or my, click on my reel or whatever. But so in January of my senior year, and I got my job in August. So from that time frame, what is it, 8 months, I sent out 60 tapes, and there was definitely places I didn't want to go, like Pocatello, Idaho, and
mm,
Boise, Montana, and
right.
you know what I'm saying, like all Billings, Montana, Sioux Falls, North Dakota, like all these places.
By the way, every city you just listed right now, I just instantly thought of snow.
Dig it,
just
like it
snow.
just like so. There was definitely places I didn't want to go. So there was places I wouldn't send my tape to, but um, you have to be willing to travel at first. That's definitely things I tell people. Luckily, now the world is such a way where like people are getting like digital social media jobs and stuff like that where they don't even have
Right,
to leave their hometown. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Some people go from internships right into working at the place where they interned and like don't skip a beat after graduation. But um, my point being is that you know you have to be willing to travel. There's places I wasn't willing to go. California obviously was not one of them because it's such a awesome place.
right.
But I was lucky, man. I was able to get my first two jobs were in Salisbury, Maryland, and Lancaster, PA. I lived in Harrisburg, but I used to drive back and forth. But I wasn't. I was 3 hours from home at most from
Right.
both of those jobs. So when the opportunity came up in California, at the time, just to give you a little quick idea, like when I worked in Salisbury, Maryland, where my first job was, I was the weekend anchor and then became the sports director. So that was it's a fly in here, my bad.
Oh no, you good.
So it was so that job right there was the first three and a half years I was in the game, and I got a raise from working at Salisbury to my second job at Harrisburg. I was working part time, 3 days a week in Harrisburg, but
Okay.
I was making $10,000 more than I was in Salisbury, working 5 days a week as a sports director. So like it was like cool. Like I just had my daughter. I was with her 4 days. I only worked 3 days. I was making more money.
Right.
I was like, hey,
It
hey,
balanced out.
hey, hey, hey. So
Yeah.
I was feeling good. But they told me when I got the job, this is a part-time job. It'll never be full-time. Don't even think about it being full-time. This is going to be a part-time job. Just so you know up front, it's going to be a part-time job. Then I was there 3 months and they was like, hey, we want to make you full-time. And I was like, what? So I didn't want to be full-time. Like I said, I was feeling good. I had a raise. I was raising my daughter. But they were like, okay, you don't want to be full-time, but, we're a big company. The name of the company is Hearst Argyle. We have a bunch of stations. If an opportunity were to come up at another one of our stations, would you be interested? And I was like,
Right.
sure, I would consider it. And then they were like, "What? How do you feel about Sacramento?" And I was like, "Let's go." So, you know what I mean? Like California would seem like a great opportunity. Like suddenly I'm on this new career path, and they tell me I got a chance to go to California. Like, yeah. So it was definitely a little bit of a culture shock. Wearing shorts on Christmas is weird, but it was just like looking back on it, a great opportunity because it allowed me to grow and experience something that I hadn't, and it gave me a love and affection for being able to survive outside of my support system,
Right.
and knowing that I got a love for the Bay Area and Northern California that still stays with me.
Right. Now, how pivotal, like, going back to your quote, as far as, be comfortable being uncomfortable, like that really had to hit home, having to make that decision, from going from the
It
East Coast to
did.
the
They,
West
they they
Coast.
made it easy for me because they gave me like moving expenses and gave me an opportunity to go out there and look for a place, and they made it easy for me. Um, but I was with my wife at the time. Like, it's not just me that's moving. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's her, it's my kids. You know what I'm saying? So it took some getting used to. I think, um, overall, it was such an easy transition though, because the weather's great. You're making more money than you've ever had before. It was just a lot of good things working in my favor. The station I was at was like similar to like a six ABC, where they had been like the big time number one for a long time. So
Right.
it's like you're coming into a good situation where people don't have the stress of trying to be, oh, we got to catch number one type of thing. So I was just grateful for the transition, and that they thought, it feels good to be sought after and thought highly of. So
Right.
you put in the work, you reap what you sow, and that was like the benefit of me reaping the benefits of me putting in the time. So it was looking back on it, man. At the time, it's like, man, like it's 106 degrees today. Like, what the heck, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But looking back on it, it just it went by so fast.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Going back to what you were talking about wearing shorts on Christmas, I had that one experience. The family, we all traveled down South Carolina. My grandparents,
exactly.
yeah, my grandparents had a house down there, and that was like one of the first times I've actually went down there for a holiday, and
Hmm.
it was like 75 degrees out there.
Yeah,
We shooting hoops in the driveway.
yeah,
Meanwhile,
right, right.
I'm going on Facebook, and everybody complaining like, man, we got flurries coming down. Like
Man,
I'm
yeah,
like, hey man,
you feel
sorry
like you're
for
getting
you,
away with murder. Yeah,
right?
you feel like you're getting away with murder.
So
But
yeah,
yeah, man,
I'm just not
especially
gonna
from
post
our
till
area,
tomorrow.
I don't know what it is about the Northeast, man, but I feel like we all need to get out of this, realize how big the world is. I feel like
Yeah,
a lot of times people from our area just kind of get stuck into like staying in their little pockets and
yeah.
what's comfortable and whatnot. But it definitely opened my eyes to a lot more.
It's almost like a level of fear and change, and like I think we all have to change at a at a degree. Like each
Hmm.
year you can't stay the same, and that's like with my platform. Like I'd love to be able to travel and reach out to different individuals, whether if you're an athlete, artist, working in news, broadcasting. Like if I have the opportunity to be able to speak with you and potentially do it, face to face, like
Yeah,
I would love to be able to do it.
for sure.
And especially to be able to get to California. Like I low key been really would love to move out to California, but
Hey, bro.
it's
I don't know your situation, but
right.
I'm here to encourage you, bro. I'm here to encourage.
Definitely.
It's all they said. It's all it's cracked up to be.
Right. Yeah, I would love to be able to get out there and also have the opportunity just to say that I did go for my goals, so. But yeah, definitely I definitely would like to get out there. So just thinking about what's going on in today, in the news
Hmm.
with with a lot of the brutality taking place today, and as what has always been taking place, and it seems like it's starting to open up to the world as far as the equality us the black culture have been looking to accomplish since we've been here.
Hmm.
um how do you see that impacting not even just the broadcasting industry but the entertainment industry? Like do you have hopes that it would allow us to see more moguls from CEOs, from directors, producers? Do you see that potentially growing moving forward?
Hmm. I really hope that these moments will lead to some real change.
Definitely.
Um, I think that's the thing I'm most concerned about. I think the guys in the NBA have a great point where there's a minority of players who feel like them resuming the season will make people forget about the larger social issues that are on the forefront of the national conversation,
Right.
So um, I think they have a great point, because once people start to get those little normalcies back, they tend to forget about this movement that, and I'd like to add, this movement has been going on a long time before now. You know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
people, latching onto it because of whether it be George Floyd, or just they're fed up, or Ahmaud Arbery, or whoever, whatever got you into the movement. Like this
Right.
has been going on for a long time before now, and a lot of people have been putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. So I just really hope it leads to something like tangible that I can touch, that I can look back on in the future and say, that led to this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that's how I look at it. What will become of, or how will, you know, it reflect on society? I'm really not sure, man. I mean, people in power have to be willing to give up their power a lot of times in order for other people to have opportunities. So
Right.
I know there's a lot of stubborn people who have a lot of power, so I don't know how, you know, that's going to shake out.
Yeah.
But the best way to do that, I know for sure, is to hold people accountable, man. So um, whether that be through protesting, whether that be through, organizing or speaking out against people, man, it's like we got to start holding people accountable. You know what I mean? You got all these companies making all these declarations about Black lives and how important, Black and brown people are to them and things like that, and what they're doing to make change. Well, let's hold them accountable, bro. Let,
Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
come on, man.
Yeah,
Um,
like we have, a lot of these entertainment companies, record industries, for
Everybody,
sure,
man,
like everybody,
making money off Black people hand over fist, man, and
exactly.
let's hold them accountable. But um, I really hope it leads to some real change. I really feel like I am willing to do whatever it takes if I felt like it would lead to something that would really be tangible. So uh, that's a broad statement, but it's just like the whole thing has really impacted me emotionally, and just
Yeah.
really taking me to places that, like you said, comfortable and uncomfortable places. I'm not necessarily comfortable sharing with the whole world. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
and then to see like the reaction some people have to not wanting Black people to have, or Black and brown people to have, a level playing field, that also creates a lot of emotion. So I feel like it's a lot going on for people of color across the world, particularly in the U.S.
Definitely. But Danny, I'm not gonna hold you, too much longer, man. We could do this all day, and
Yeah, much love,
you
bro.
know,
Thanks for having me.
absolutely. So everybody, this has been Politicin episode 3 with Danny Pommells. I'm gonna have to get with you again. We're gonna have a pizza conversation, because I know how big of a pizza fan you
Yeah,
are. So
for
what I mean,
sure.
we're gonna have to come up with a list of all our top pizza spots. So
I ain't mad.
to
I
get
ain't mad one
continue on
bit.
that one.
All
Definitely,
day.
man. Much love, man.
All right, Hawk. Take
Appreciate
care.
you being on, man. Have a good one.
All day. You
Yep.
too. Take care.
Later.